Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, the topic of my presentation today is Thriving Trade Along the Silk Road, Inheritance and Innovation of Civilizations. First, I will make a very brief introduction about the Silk Road, and then I'd like to present my ideas through three main aspects. The first is about the dialogue of civilizations along the Silk Road, then the international trade on the Silk Road. The last is about the oasis and the Silk Road. The Silk Road enabled an early model for internationalization, which started from ancient China and arose in trade. It is international business and trade route among Asia, Europe, and Africa, and also an important road linking the Eastern and Western worlds' political, economic, and cultural exchanges. One Belt and One Road originates from China and goes through Central Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, West Asia, and parts of Europe, connecting with the Asia-Pacific Economic Circle to the east and extending to European Economic Circle to the west. It covers about 4.4 billion population and gross economic capacity is about 21 trillion US dollars. It is not only the World Economic Corridor with the large span, but also the cooperation belt with much development potential. The Silk Road multi-civilization development history is also at the same time the history of dialogue between different civilizations. Across long history of more than 2,000 years, the Silk Road linked with ancient Yellow River culture, Ganges River culture, Greek culture, and Persian culture. Buddhism, Christian, and Islam culture communicate and mutually influence one another. Many epoch-making inventions, creations, and schools of thought initially spread globally via the Silk Road. Material goods such as silk and spices were exchanged along the Silk River, as well as scientific ideas, cultural traditions, and religion. The long-lasting spread of rich natural resources, technology and folk culture, as well as spiritual culture, integrating various kinds of religious belief, music, dancing, and painting arts, has a far-reaching and widespread influence on the spiritual outlook of the world. Countries along and nearby the Silk Road are friendly neighbors linking by mountains and rivers. Here carries the most representative civilizations in Eurasia. The Chinese civilization advocates friendship and good neighborliness, respect nature, and treat nature as our parents. The history of Russian civilization is multiple and deep, and advocating the moral and spiritual values. Islamic culture, with the features of fair and mutual benefit, deeply influences people's way of life in Central Asia countries. These civilizations originate from various geographic spaces, and their formations are also from exchanges with other civilizations. They experienced thousands of years of long history and formed unique spiritual symbol of every country. But the most fundamental pursuit of truth, kindness, and beauty is in one continuous line. Take friendship, for example. Confucius said, "To study all by oneself without a friend makes one ignorant and ill-informed." Pushkin said, "Whether sentimental poetry, beautiful article, or the joy of leisure time, what or can't replace very close relationship." The link between civilizations is the tie of maintaining world and regional peace, the bridge building friendship for countries along the road and around the world, and one of the fundamental driving forces promoting the progress of human society. Silk Road also accumulated the spirit of the Silk Road, characterized with solidarity and mutual trust, equality and mutual benefit, inclusiveness and mutual learning, cooperation and win-win, which left a valuable spiritual wealth for the Eurasian countries and shining with brilliant lightness of the evolution of human civilization. As an important form of dialogue among civilizations, trade is always with a deep mark of culture and civilization. At the same time, geographic location, natural resources endowment of a country have very important effects on its social development and economic behavior. Trade is the reallocation of economic resources in space and also a major way for dialogue among civilizations. Trade talks lead directly different civilizations to open to each other. Trade facilitation is a general trend for the development of international trade, and in order to realize trade facilitation, we must first eliminate or reduce various kinds of visible and invisible obstacles or barriers which may increase trade costs. In the tide of trade globalization and liberalization, the role of traditional trade barriers, such as tariff, quotas, is declining, while the more common factors causing trade frictions may be the diversity and variety in terms of production orientation, consumption concept, and even value judgment, standard, and way of thinking, etc. Although the geographical space is relatively fixed, the mind inner space is not unchangeable and does not grow suddenly either. These thoughts created various systems, mechanisms, and cultural habits of countries. In these geographical spaces, our views have a common thread while at the same time constantly changing and constantly evolving. The biggest obstacle may be encountered in a dialogue between civilizations is incomplete communication and criticizing with prejudice. However, blaming and criticizing cannot fundamentally solve the problems. Adequate exchange and learning may bear the roots of civilization dialogue. We need a dynamic, inclusive, interactive, and harmonious dialogue of civilizations rather than static, narrow confrontations or conflicts of civilizations. On the basis of such kind of dialogue, the international trade on the Silk Road will achieve prosperity in the inheritance and innovation of civilizations, reappear ancient prosperous economic performance, and bring good vision and wealth to countries around the world. Throughout the history of world economy development, trade openness and cities play an important role in the spatial allocation of economic resources and act as ties and centers for business exchanges and economic growth. Cities and oases are interdependent and mutually promote each other. Prosperous cities provide spatial structure for communication of civilizations and allocation of economic resources. Developed business and trade laid a solid foundation for the Silk Road, while the massive trade activities greatly enrich the material and the spiritual life here. Protect the oasis and protect the ecological environment are not only historical responsibilities we must shoulder in the construction process of the Silk Road economic belt, but also provides new ideas and new possibilities for positioning and developing of cities along the Silk Road. Oasis is the foundation of the Silk Road. We need to achieve a new trade and new way of civilization, characterized with a harmonious development between man and nature, cooperation and coexistence, as well as the lowest energy consumption. The development of the Silk Road economic belt is the harmonious development between man and nature, the harmonious and jointly development of man and nature in the framework of dialogue of civilizations. In the past 2,000 years, the Silk Road has played an irreplaceable role for economic and trade exchanges and dialogue of our civilizations between China and Eurasian countries. The spirits carried on the Silk Road, characterized with peace and awareness, inclusiveness and cooperation, mutual learning, mutual benefit, and win-win, wrote down an important chapter on the exchanges and mutual learning history. Such a kind of respect for nature and civilization, such a kind of spirits of the Silk Road, such a kind of future anticipation for a better life is what we should still hold today. The ancient Silk Road witnessed the history of exchanges among various civilizations, while the construction of the Silk Road economic belt has put our new generation to a new historical stage. At present, for the inheritance and innovation of civilizations, as well as trade prosperity along the Silk Road, we should continue to carry forward the spirits of the Silk Road, to adhere to the principle of equality, respect, and love, to stick with the appreciation, inclusiveness, and mutual learning attitude, to develop dialogue between civilizations. Thus, we can enjoy more happiness and lasting spiritual exchanges while creating a brighter future containing more opportunities and more choices, and push social progress and economic development forward in the future. Thank you very much.